Sorry, Karthik, to keep you waiting. I just had to help uh,
No
my
problem, no
mom.
problem. That's okay. I just wanted
So,
to ask you one thing.
into the
Would
workshop
you help?
section. So, the
Would you help me
workshops
with the CBAP material like
uh,
terms you have
technique,
later?
and it really helps out because it is a focused event. You need to, it is very less budget. You don't have to invest too much, and it's only for a very short duration. But only the problem with this limitations comes is like availability, because you don't know which stakeholder is available or not, and for sure all the stakeholders cannot come to a platform at the same time. So either they tell I'm not available, the other department tells I'm not available, so it's a difficult time. Too many participants slows down the process. Now and then that's a problem in workshops. Generally, if we have more than required participants, it really is very difficult to catch up. It's like, you'll not be able to deliver what is expected. Too few participants can lead to overlooking of needs. Now that is another problem. Either you have less or you have more, it is still a problem, because if you have only one or two participants coming to the workshop, they will only give the information what they have been seeing around it. But who knows, there might be some three or four people who have another set of information which you don't have it. So it becomes overlooking. Now, conducting elicitation with workshop elements, you have it as prepare, identify roles, conduct, post workshop, and distribute. Now, what happens with these is basically your elements is to ensure you are prepared with everything, identify your stakeholders, conduct elicitation, okay, like put everything in form of action. After your workshop, get some feedback around people, how things have done, A, B, C, D, all that. And then you circulate the outcome, like distribution of the outcome, whatever you have. Focus groups, another technique you can help to, it's a more of interaction between a lot of people as a group, and they are pre-qualified participants. So generally they come with certain knowledge aspects, knowledge areas are part of their basic skill set. And homogeneous and the heterogeneous group. Now generally this is nothing but it's more of like groups where you can see these people or people who are actively participating and responding, okay. And they basically have an identical approach, okay. And they are considered to be like more identical in their approach with whatever you are coming with. In example, uh, let's say on the social aspect, if you look at, okay, they all have include, they might include some people around the same group, okay. The group might be what, let's say they are having people for age groups, certain age groups are given, and they have certain work experience which is similar. Everyone has the same experience, everyone has the same education, something like that. It is a group which gets into more of similarities, okay. That's your homogeneous group. Now on the other side, it's on the heterogeneous group. It's more of like I would say it is more from learning from others skills, others differences, and we try to learn from people. That is what it is, okay. Yeah, this is a little cost effective approach, but focus groups is really beneficial again, because they don't have participants around just like that. They come with a qualification in terms of expertise, skills, knowledge. Limitations, it is like more vocal participants may influence the result. Trust issues in participants, yeah, that is another problem we might encounter. Here is your elements: define, plan, prepare, assign, conduct, output of the event. So that is your elements. So you can just take a quick glance. You can see What's your define? Your objective should be set. What's your plan? Where's the location? Where's the budget? How much timeline? Outcome? Who are the participants going to be part of this focus group? So all of these are your elements in focus groups. Coming to survey and questionnaire in techniques, this is another form of effective approach because we all know how the surveys work, how questionnaires work, but on the other side, limitations, let's look at it because strengths are like very familiar for us, surveys and questionnaire. How does it help in form of strength for you in terms of this technique? It may help us in distributing, collecting, and analytics of information. Then I can, collect responses. I can collect details from people in a very short time, but it's not going to be costing me so much. And I can also collect survey responses not only to a specific geographic location but to a multiple widespread locations like India, uh, Japan, US, UK, all this examples like that. So you can spread it across through the localities or the other countries as well. Strengths, again, we know survey and questionnaires is more of closed and open-ended questions. So another thing is like the limitations what we were talking about is because not everyone would have responded to the survey on that time. Like let's say you get a link from survey to be done and you may tend to be busy that you're occupied with something else. So your response rate is very late. So that is one problem. Another thing is like questions not being answered, which is somewhere the service people may skip, people may uh, deny answering that. That is another thing. So the whole purpose of survey will not be fulfilled if your answers are not in place or people don't give you a good reason for the answer what they have given, because when you see open-ended questions they always require some more inputs like in terms of uh, practical way, or you can give some example from their experience, etc., etc. So that is important. Here are your elements. So you have to prepare the survey. You need to define what is the target group. Always identify your target group. Okay, if you're circulating a survey, it doesn't mean you can send it to everyone in the say age group of so and so ages. You need to identify the group, like who is this beneficial, who is this going to reach out to, what is the output, what is the objective of this survey. Select is nothing but your type of content designing, more of it I would say in simple terms. Prototyping, this is another technique which we have. So prototyping, what I can say is like in business analysis, it's basically more of like a kind of a visual representation. Okay, we try to put up some things in form of visuals because it will help us to help us plus the client to understand the requirements with help of some visuals, or it can be kind of a any kind of analytics perspective where you can do that. And also prototype in business designing also is being done where you can provide services towards implementing some softwares, implementing some services, tools. So that is another type of prototype. Prototype isn't just required for visual perspective. It can be formed in a way of tangible, like we say, okay, tangible things. So we can do that as well. So you can see the strengths and you can see the limitations. So it's more of like iterative process, creation, optimizing UX to evaluate design options basis on the final business solution, identifies missing and incorrect requirements. So basically these are nothing but it is a kind of more of creativity, design thinking, all these things. What are the limitations you might see on the other side is they sometimes come up with a very unrealistic expectations, like how it's written there, because sometimes they think it's, if we have a technique or we have a problem, the client will ask you something which is way beyond your scope, and you don't think that it's really a situation to take it over and deliver. Okay, and focusing of discussions maybe on how are we going to build rather than what. So the focus of the crowd, the focus of the participants is more on how are we going to do it rather than what are we going to do. So prototyping isn't all about just design and deliver, it's more about what are you going to do with, what are you dealing with, what are you setting up for the client, or what are you setting up for the stakeholder. That is important. How are we going to do it, you can decide it anytime later, but your objective should be clear. What are you going to do? Here is a prototyping elements. Determine approach, examples and methods. So you can see this little ideas behind it and how the elements are set up. Then our another approach in this is sorry, not approach, elements. If you see, if you're looking at this, you can see the determination approach is more of like throwaway prototypes are discarded once the learning from the developed prototype is achieved. Evolutionary prototype is incrementally built to final. So what happens is there might be some things that we may be saying that it's our technique is followed, or the technique has been fulfilled. Now we are done with implementing the prototype, visual or tangible, whatever. So at some point of time you don't think so it's required anymore, because you have developed it, and once the learning is there, you know how to create it, you can do it again and again. So examples: proof of concept, usability, prototype. Methods: this is some of the things that you can follow how to do prototyping in your particular BA project. Storyboards, all these things. Now what is another part of would like to say is like interface analysis, another technique which I would say. So again, your 5 whys: what, why, when, where, how. So interface analysis is more of like you can see that it's a connection between two components or solution. It's like we need to understand this is like we need to have a connection between each other of the solutions or components you come up with. So to get an example, like overview: ATM, laptop or mobile. So if you see interface, external business process, data interface, APIs, hardware devices. So what generally happens here is uh, to tell it in a very simple term, or mm, like, because we already have an example, so I'm just trying to put it up in a very simple statement. What exactly does interface analysis mean to us when it's coming in terms of business analytics, or sorry, business analysis? So it is more of like helps us to understand as a BA. It helps us to understand how things are working functionality wise, and how exactly do they communicate, like APIs, okay, the data interface communications, and how exactly are the systems integrated, all these things. This is your interface analysis. So if you see ATM example, what do you do? First thing, you insert your ATM card, okay, and you await for the instructions. The instructions is nothing but communication. The system is communicating with you. By what way? By telling you wait for something, you need to do this A, B, C. The first step is they might ask you to select your account type. They might tell you to follow certain instructions. That is your communication. So this is all something followed step by step in form of many components. One is like process defined, one is interface, one is integration of the technology, one is understanding the hardware device itself, the ATM machine. Then how does the data interact between yourself and the system? Like you need to input some ATM pin number, then you enter the amount you would like to withdraw. This is all something which is data interface between the systems and yourself. So similar way laptop. Now right now what we are doing, I'm sitting on a laptop. However, I'm communicating. There's a process. I have a channel of communication. The mode of communication is virtual. The tools, hardware devices, that is your laptop, and your tool is or technology is the Teams. How is the process? The process is something like I get an invite, I join the link, I follow certain steps, procedures, installations. That is understanding the system interface. So that is a interface analysis that is required. Now, what is the overview? You have to understand what are the functional requirements. Scope modeling, observation, and interviews. These are some of the steps or techniques that you would like to apply when you are doing interface analysis. Understand interfaces used in existing business process. Provide interface to the solution with a context diagram. Now, if you look at this elements, prepare for identification, conduct identification, and define. So generally nothing but how exactly have you identified the interface analysis system? How have you understood what exactly is required and how it is required? So if you see, that is the interface analysis elements. Now this is your interview technique, okay, which is very common. Everyone might have been very familiar with. So definition, type, success, and constraints of interview technique. So we know it's a one of the common method, like how we do workshops. It's another form of technique for it's a BA in the Babcock book says it's one of the common because you can deal one to one with an individual to understand how things have been happening in a way form of any mode of communication, right? So we can do it in person meetings, we can do phone calls, we can do uh, meetings, a face to face, a virtual video conference, etc., etc. How that what are the types of interviews that you would do is like structured and unstructured. So very simple. This technique is like basically we identify if you are asking a client or a stakeholder some questions which are already predefined, which is means you already have it in the books of your BA, like not BA exactly, but I would say in your list when you're preparing for a target meeting. Unstructured is something which may come up based on responses, or you it might be instant questions. So like, what do you do in this case? Example. Or how do you deal with the problem XYZ when there is no availability of the technology? Okay, example. How do you manage your business continuous plans when there is a XYZ problem? So there's a lot of questions which might not be in your list which is predefined, but it may come up based on the responses also. So that is one thing. Success, it depends. Interviewers domain knowledge, experience, and skills is required. So as a BA, if we have the required knowledge, the experience, and the skill, that is your successful journey of BA. The same way, interview technique, if you are interviewing someone, you need to have this in hand. What is the importance of interview is they have to be readiness, a degree of clarity about the goal of the interview, and rapport. That is very important. Again, rapport is something which really has to be taken care of. Like whenever you deal with any individuals, any clients, you need to communicate well enough, make them understand that you are uh, respecting them. So that's a called a rapport of interview, because if that is done, you are really gonna get everything done as per your plan, as per your list, everything. Now the constraint here is you require a lot of time to plan the interviews. If you're doing a predefined sessions, you need to plan well and then schedule the time based on the availability. And when you do this meetings in form of interview technique, it is a little time consuming. You need a lot of time because when you do this technique, you try to ask them a lot of questions and you take a lot of inputs from them based off this. What are the interviews elements? So you can see this: plan, execute, and follow. A simple methodology we have: plan, execute, and follow, which is how do you plan? You have to define the goals, you have to define the communication goals, identify who is going to be part of your interview, ask them open questions, closed ended questions, ask them A, B, C, D. And how do you execute? Execution is nothing but set up your technology tools, tell them where exactly are we catching up, how are we meeting, where are we meeting, like that example. Okay, and organize and confirm the results. Like basically after the interview successfully is completed, let them know what's the output, when are we going to result everything out, and follow up meeting accordingly. Right, so these are the elements. Now here is a mind mapping which I was talking to you, right? So can you just see this diagram? You maybe don't look into much of understanding each of this, but I'll show you. I'm just showing you this diagram to understand what is mind mapping exactly. So it is like, um, you write down the main uh, focus area, like let's say whatever your problem is, and from there you start connecting things in form of resolution, ideas, suggestions. So what happens, like you're going in a sequence, right? So let's say you found a problem, now you found a solution. Now what do you do with that solution? How is it going to benefit? How is it going to do A, B, C, D, whatever? So those are your mind mapping or connectors to your uh, problem statement and the decision solving, sorry, decision making or problem solving techniques. So you can see example mind mapping. First thing is used to articulate and capture ideas. The other side, note taking, structure and logic and non-linear. Then another thing is taxonomy, main topic, subtopic, images, branches, and color. So this is a diagram which tells us like this. Can you see this example? Elements of mind mapping. Your main aspect or scope is business analysis. Okay, you see where all it's connecting? What is BA planning and monitoring doing? XYZ. What is elicitation and collaboration doing? So many things are there. What is the requirements analysis? What is solution designing? What is requirements of life cycle management? How do you do strategy analysis? So you see, with one aspect, you're connecting so many things. And that is where we are telling mind mapping. So you can just take a 10 seconds and just try to understand this particular example what we have.
Mr. Nizam, this is Karthik. I wanted to ask you, I mean, I don't have any material, I mean,
Where
training this
are
now.
your stakeholders? Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Now, after all this planning, preparing, and conducting elicitation, now it's time for you to confirm your elicitation results. So the purpose is XYZ. You can see the reason, the purpose. What is your
Hello?
input and what is your output?
Wait, Mr.
Your inputs
Hello?
are more of
Hello,
like
hello, hello.
results are being revealed, given, provided, published to the stakeholder. Now, what is the expectation from this particular uh, catch-up meetings or elicitation? Now confirm and approve the results. That is the output.
Mr. Nizam,
So you
can you
can
hear
see
me?
in two ways.
Hello?
Confirmed elicitation can result as against source information with other elicitation results. So elements are nothing but your results are confirmed basis of the information provided with the elicitation. Also, there are some kind of references provided to the elicitation. So here are some of the techniques that you would like to confirm your elicitation results: document analysis, reviews, and then another few ones are like interview
Mr.
method. Okay, and
Hello,
another
Mr.
one
Nizam,
is
can you hear me?
so these are few of your techniques that you would like to apply when you are doing a confirm elicitation results.
Hello, Mr. Nizam, can you hear me?
So techniques continued. If you see, confirm elicitation with existing documents, conduct review and solicit elicitation results and solicit feedback. So now this is something what we are doing is after you get all the sorry after you get the required existing documents of the process, what you do, you review everything and you create your own feedbacks, your results of understanding. Then you start doing interviews with people, and then finally you set up a workshop to uh, make sure that everyone understands what it is coming from. And your workshop should have a amount of participants that who are really going to benefit from that particular workshop. So you can think of these techniques when you're doing a confirm elicitation resulting. Stakeholders, it's always domain SME and any stakeholder can come, but business analyst or BA should have all the required knowledge, experience with expertise. Now, what is communication of business analysis information? That's your elicitation and collaboration, which is more of like understanding what information should be provided. So communication is again part of your elicitation. You have done the first three steps: prepare, conduct, and confirm. Now it's time for you to go ahead and roll that out in a form of communication document to all of the stakeholders and your document purpose or storage of the information. So your input is BA information. Stakeholder engagement approach, and output is BA information is communicated. That's our output focus. So you can see I was just talking about this in the previous present this one document pages or slides, I would say. You can communicate the things around in any form. It doesn't have to be specific to one communication. Okay, it can be in form of anything like formal information document, SOPs type, or presentation mode, etc. What are the approaches? It depends completely on the BA approach. Either it can be predictive, adaptive based on your approach. And then you can communicate the complete information to the stakeholder. So here are the guidelines and tools you have to keep in mind is two approach. One is approach and another is information management. So approach is again important to understand how are you going to communicate the BA information and what approach is best and suitable so the client has understanding it. Information management is more of like circulating the information to the stakeholders or the client. So it cannot be like just a formal communication. You send out someone an email and tell them, hey, this is what is happening. But you also have to think on terms of, storing information, available information at any point of time. All these aspects have to be thought when you do information management. So you example of information management, I could think of like example having some documentation, having some SOPs, having some process controls. All these things are some of the examples. Now, what are the techniques, interviews, reviews, and workshops? For what? To communicate the BA approach information. So communicate the information, review your BA information, and build consensus and approval. So which means to say it's like, when you are communicating, sorry, when you're communicating things around to the people, the individuals, the stakeholders, it has to be clear, precise. One. Second thing, you have to review the information together with the stakeholders, have them go through each and everything, walk them through if required. And once everything is done, you need to get a approval or closure from them. Here are your stakeholders in communicate BA information. Common understanding, it is simple. Everyone is part of this. I would say everyone is part of this. Not only one person, two-person, but all of these people are involved in the stakeholder list. How do you manage the stakeholder collaboration now? Now, this is something you have to focus is engaging the stakeholders. That is important because you can't just keep talking to stakeholders just in terms of whenever the updates are being done, but you have to keep the business in line and at the same time keep their client reputations or high, performance metrics high on stakes every time like that. So that is important. How does inputs work? Inputs is more of like I would say stakeholder approach, engagement, and BA performance assessment. And your output is finally you will be able to encourage all the stakeholders to work towards a common goal. Here are your elements. You can just take a glance, gain agreements and commitment, monitor the stakeholder engagement, collaboration. So you can just take a glance at this. So what are the agreements on commitments? You need to find out the timelines. You need to find out resources required, availability of resources. Then how do you monitor? It's more of like participation and keeping some governance controls in place, keeping some participation from the stakeholders and risk associated anything has to be kept in place. Collaboration is nothing but you need to keep the information active, open, and making sure that you promote the shared efforts to resolve the problem. So it should be like we all have to work collaboratively towards the success on the same. These are your guidelines and the tools that you require when you are doing a manage stakeholder collaboration. BA approach, business objectives, future state description, recommended actions, and risk analysis. So it will say that What is the level of engagement? What is your future state objective? What is the value? Okay, and then recommend action says more about earning the support and focus of stakeholder, and then ensuring the stakeholder collaboration. Here are some of the techniques to manage your stakeholder collaboration. Collaborative games, lessons learned, risk analysis, and stakeholder list or personas. Here are the stakeholders that will be part of your this particular activity. So here also everyone will be part of it, not 1-2%, but all the stakeholders will be part of this. Let it be your SME, your development team, your customer, your other stakeholders, quality, XYZ, whatever. Now, the takeaways from this elicitation module is more of like, how do you define and how do you get retrieve, or I would say place the information of a particular problem, a particular business or a client. And then followed, you will have to make sure that the required elicitation tasks are performed as required in the sequence or order. Okay, and elicitation techniques, there are almost like 18 commonly used techniques which we have gone through in each of these methods or steps. So it's more of like between prepare, conduct, uh, confirm, communicate. There are some of the techniques that we have applied. So the total of them is almost 18 techniques we apply in each of in the phase of elicitation and collaboration. So you have to make sure you keep a track of your elicitation results, perform how it is, and get a feedback accordingly wherever required. And then frequently communicate BA information and manage stakeholder collaboration. So this is a little insight of what elicitation and collaboration would be, and we all have to be very focused towards not only deriving the output solutions or a problem solving thing, but also we have to keep a focus towards the collaboration side, which is more of stakeholder engagement approach, then more of like understanding your stakeholders very good or very well manner, so that you know how to deal with them, how to derive problem solutions. All these things can be done if it is a good collaborative sessions, a good collaborative understanding between all the parties. So this is the end of elicitation and collaboration. So we have finished almost the 4 phases of uh, CBAP, or I would say the business analysis profile. Okay. So tomorrow what we will do is we will start with requirements of life cycle management. So this is more of nothing but you will be able to understand what exactly is required in each stage for you to fulfill your roles and responsibilities in terms of business analysis, and how exactly does this help us to uh, resolve our problems. So trace requirements, all these things come into picture, and more of like it's a business model or a module which we need to set up. In terms of that, we need to